I had no idea about Middle Eastern people. Only thing I knew was what I saw on the news and in movies, and it wasn't that great. But they are wonderful people, just like us, and I really developed a love for the Middle Eastern people.
Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com, where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now.
What's up, One Gang? Today's guest is a man whose story goes far beyond titles, jobs, or even the motorcycle industry. Braxton Hamilton is someone many people in the Harley-Davidson world know through his work, his leadership, and his passion for the brand. But there is another side to his journey that makes this conversation something truly different. Braxton has built a respected path inside the Harley-Davidson community, working in dealer education, sales development, and brand culture while carrying a real love for the history and legacy of Harley-Davidson. But long before publishing his memoir and long before many people knew his name in this space, Braxton lived a chapter that sounds more like a movie than real life. His book, Highway of Death, tells the story of leaving behind a finance career to join a civilian mission in Iraq, where he worked to help rebuild communities, restart industry, and navigate danger, chaos, and humanity in the middle of a war zone. This episode is about the road that shaped him, where he came from, what he survived and what he learned, and how those experiences molded a man who now pours himself into leadership, people, and purpose. Braxton, welcome to One Gang, brother. We are so excited to have you on the show. And I can honestly say I read the book and I freaking loved it. So great job on that.
Thanks, man. Thanks a lot, Sergey. I love that. I sound pretty awesome in all that.
You do, man.
I hope I can live up to that.
Hey, if the shoe fits.
That's right.
Braxton, we start the show with an icebreaker round where we break the ice with 10 rapid fire questions and 10 rapid fire answers. You ready to rock?
I think so. Let's go.
Let's do it. First question, first motorcycle you ever owned?
You know, it was a mini bike when I was like 4 or 5. I don't really know what kind it was, and I was trying to think about that. I've already blown the rapid fire though. This ain't rapid. I'm not very rapid. But I thought about I owned lots of Yamaha, Kawasaki, just dirt bikes. That's what I grew up with. Was in the dirt.
I'm going to change it. Out of your first 5 bikes, what was the most memorable? What was your favorite bike when you were a kid?
I remember this Kawasaki, but I don't remember what actual kind
Probably
it was.
Like a KX50 or KX80 or something.
Yeah, something like that. And I'll tell you a little bit about growing up in a minute in that, and just tell you a little bit about what we did with them and everything.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. Question number 2, sales process or pure people skills?
Man, that's a great one. Man, they're both so important. It's got to be sales process though. Just like the book I read a long time ago, talent is never enough. You know, I'll take a guy that will follow the process and maybe not have the people skills and that, you know, because that guy with the people skills, just like me, lots of shortcuts in my life. And I've learned to try to put in some processes. So,
and if the
shortcuts and adjustments on the fly.
Yeah. If the sales process is good enough, the salesman will naturally develop those people skills over time too. So that's smart.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 3, best place you ever visited? Best country.
Oh, what country? Man, there's a lot. It really is Jordan. It's the country of Jordan. We had a great time there. We flew into Oman a couple times. And I remember my buddy and I were there together one of these times, and we took the King's Highway down to Petra, which I remember calling home from Petra. And I told my wife, I said, I don't ever need to go see another attraction again in my life, because nothing on this earth will ever compare to what I'm seeing here at Petra.
That's right.
And there's more told you this rapid fire. I heard someone on your show make one. Well, they were rapid. They were good. I was like, that ain't going to be me. So, and then we got to the Gulf of Aqaba, which is on the Red Sea. And we went scuba diving. And this is where they say that God parted the sea. That's where they believe that Moses crossed the Red Sea
right.
there and that. Now, I didn't see any chariots or anything under the water, but it was absolutely spectacular. It was so cool. So
That
I went
sounds
with
amazing.
you talked about in your book on the Black
That's
Sea
right.
about not open. I've been to that sea myself
Okay.
in Israel, and it's true, man. It's like you try to dive down and it won't let you go. And
Yeah.
that's funny because there was a part you said, well, they said don't open your eyes, and you're
Yeah.
like, thank God I didn't, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
That's
it's
right.
funny.
And that was the Dead Sea part. This is further south though in the Red Sea. I was in both of those, but yeah, I don't think you could even go scuba diving in the Dead Sea. But
No.
Yeah, you're too buoyant with all the salt. But we watched the Expedition Unknown Petra episode, and my son is an absolute history geek and loves it. He's little, and after
Good,
that
man.
show,
That's good that he's got that.
it's awesome. First thing, after we watched it, the show ends, and he goes, "Dad, can we go?" Like, yeah, let's get.
And
It's
no
only
problem.
It's a few minutes away. Let's hit it. All right, question 4. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who are you breaking bread with, Braxton?
So I'm going to give you dead and alive. All right.
All right.
Alive. It would absolutely be Willie G. Davidson. I love the history of Harley-Davidson. And I mean, just this week, it was such a thrill for me. I sat right at the corner of a table with Karen Davidson, his daughter,
Cool.
and just whispering while other people are having conversations with Karen Davidson
Man.
and her telling me stories in that. But to sit down with her dad, because I have his book actually on my shelf. I have a lot of copies. I give them away to people all the time. I've
Cool.
read it 3 different times.
Yeah, me too. I've got it
And
too. Awesome book.
it's incredible. So
Yeah.
my wife will tell you, I even get little micro tears reading his book.
Nice.
So I
All right. What about alive?
I would love to meet him
Yeah.
and have dinner with him. And then dead, it'd be my grandpa, who I never met. We were just talking about him and his little shop
Also
in
Braxton, right?
Virginia and that in the Shenandoah Valley. And
Yeah.
it'd just be, I'm named after him, Braxton.
Yeah.
And it would be him.
That's
That's cool.
Great answer, man. All right, question 5. Playlist is stuck on one artist or band. Who are you hoping it is?
I never stay within a box. Okay. It's gonna be Brandon Lake. And then also though, if my wife is there, like, did you say on Desert Island? I don't know if I read that into it, but I'm stuck alone in that. I also have to have, if she's there, I have to have Chris Stapleton's Tennessee Whiskey, because we danced to that. So
Okay, that's a
Very
great
cool.
that's
song.
it.
Good mix. All right, number 6. One word that defines great leadership. That's a hard one.
It's, I think it's humility.
Yeah.
One great leader that I was around just very briefly. We had offices close to each other, even though mine was like a janitor's closet, was General Petraeus. And General Petraeus is a brilliant man. And he tried to surround himself with people that he thought were more brilliant than him.
Mhm.
And he wanted to hear from them. He wanted them to share their opinions and their ideas and things like that. And I think that you really have to have humility. That is a tough question.
It's funny you say that, because the first thing you said when you joined us before the show is, "Oh man, you're probably thinking you read this guy's bio and what's he doing on the show?" You live it, man. All right, here's
Yeah, for
version
sure.
2 of that question. One word that defines a great leadership culture. That
One,
defines a great dealership culture. Sorry.
as I come into the Harley-Davidson world, I came from the automobile world. And some of the places that I've been that really have this culture, it makes a difference. And it's like they're a family, and Harley-Davidson is a family. And I think that if you can be like a family and just care about each other, more than just the business. That's what it would be for me is
Awesome, man.
a family.
Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent
That
question.
trickles down into the customer experience too. You can feel that and see it.
Cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here's a fun one, man. Person you idolized as a kid.
I was just a huge basketball fan. I love
Ooh.
basketball.
Who was it?
And I'm from Illinois, but as a kid, I saw Jordan play twice. It's not him. I met him. Don't meet your heroes, but
Yeah, I heard.
he was an incredible basketball player. But it was Dr. J.
Yeah,
I loved
yeah.
watching Dr. J. I still remember exactly. I still remember him coming behind the backboard and dropping it in his
Yes.
huge, beautiful fro and that.
Oh yeah.
And he was just super cool. I love the Sixers. So
Hey, great story. I got my dad's boss had season. I grew up in Boston, so my dad's boss had season tickets for the Celtics during the Bird era. He had two young kids, two young twins that were born, and he could never go. So he used to give them to my dad, and my brother and I used to go. And speaking of Dr. J, man, I got a chance to see his last game at the Boston Garden, and they gave him a piece of the parquet floor, and it was really cool. I love Doctor too, man. I mean, I hated the Sixers, but I always liked Doctor.
that's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah,
that is cool. All right, build us your dream garage. One car or truck, one car and or truck, and a bike.
So my bike would be one of those 1940s WLA Harley-Davidsons.
Nice.
The Liberator bike.
Yeah.
You see?
So
this stuff. This is all old school stuff right back here. It's all old bikes.
That flathead is just that is the bike I love. I would love to have one of those. And the history of that bike is so incredible. You know, Harley-Davidson made about 88,000 or so of those. I'm sure someone will correct me on that, but they made those and we shipped those off to Europe for the war and World War II. And so we had all of our service members riding those, not all of them, but however many were on those bikes, riding those bikes during the war. And as we liberated countries and towns, you would see some of those bikes coming in and the parade of people coming out. And there's a famous picture of one of our service members riding one of those Liberators in, and flowers and people around him. And our Harley-Davidson liberating that town
cool.
is just so amazing. And also about that history is that then we left all that stuff there, just like we always do. And so now all those people over there started riding Harley-Davidson motorcycles and fell in love with them. And those servicemen then came back to America, and that's something that probably felt comfortable to a lot of them. And they went out and bought Harley-Davidson motorcycles.
Yeah, that was the motorcycle culture began in the States, man, when they came back from World War II. So
that's right. That's right.
Cool.
Yep.
Wheels Through Time up in North Carolina has a handful of them, and they've got some great pictures and all the gear and things that were timely for that era. It's a really cool exhibit up there. And they they happened to fire one up while we were there touring. It was, man, I love that place. All right, now we got to hear your car and or truck.
Oh, you know, it really would just be, I worked for General Motors Corporate for a while. I just love their Yukon Denali. So it would just be a decked out, probably blacked out Yukon Denali with some big old rims on it, and that they'd be blacked out. Even though it seems like chrome is coming back, they'd probably be blacked out. So
Nice.
All right, nice. Good choice. Good choice.
Murdered out Denali with spinners on it.
Denali's a badass. They're great trucks, man.
All right, just a couple questions left. When people leave one of your seminars, what's the one thing you hope sticks?
Honestly, I hope that they have a good time. I just had a guy, I was at, it's called Nash Bash is what I call them. And that's not the rugby team or the rugby gathering up in the Northeast that I found out they have called Nash Bash as well. But it's my seminar. And I just had a guy there. He said, I've been through years and years and years of training, and it's a lot of just the same stuff. But I like to make it fun, and I think people learn that way. So I hope that they have a good time.
Awesome.
That's cool. All right. Last question's off the script. I just added it. Will you tell us about the stuff behind you in your office, your pictures and your knickknacks back there? They look like they have some cool stories attached to them.
Is that great for radio?
Yeah, well,
Well, we got a
it'll
YouTube channel too, so
it'll encourage the listeners to check out
So-
YouTube.
There's my Willie G book and my beautiful wife making a funny face. That's a picture of Egypt when I was at the pyramids. But over here, they say that's maybe Otto Walker, one of our first
racers.
wrecking crew racers on a board track. There's such great detail. My daughter painted that, and it's an incredible painting. And next to that is the very first painting that she ever painted when she went off to college, and some other paintings, and then just lots of knickknacks.
I see the new ride hat, right? That's the new slogan.
Yep,
the new
that's
slogan for Harley.
That's right. That's our new slogan. So I just picked those up the other day up in Dayton, Ohio. So
Killer.
Yep. Thanks for asking.
Definitely. They all look really interesting. The pictures look cool.
All right, buddy. I think you set the record for the world's fastest.
Oh, nice. What is that?
You got to.
Is it a
Go
wing?
ahead.
Where did you get the axe from? Where's the axe from?
It's just from, I like throwing axes at
nice.
at those things. So
Your bike turns heads. Your gear should too. Milwaukee Motorcycle Clothing Company has classic leathers and bold new designs you won't find anywhere else. Shop top brands plus exclusive MMCC originals. Right now, our listeners get 20% off their entire order with promo code CW20. Visit MilwaukeeMotorcycleClothing.com today.
All right. Well, you made it through the speed round, so it was more of a journey round. So,
Yes.
which was awesome.
all right.
So let's kick it off. Let's take the audience back. Where did you grow up? And, what kind of kid were you in the beginning? Like, what was some of your early interests?
So I was born at the University of Iowa Hospital, and my family lived on a farm, but thankfully we moved to Illinois because I'm a huge Fighting Illini fan. And I grew up on an island in the middle of the Mississippi River. And in the middle of that island, we just had dirt. And I grew up there riding motorcycles, racing around, vandalizing stuff, and racing with my friends and destroying things and trying not to get killed. We were definitely hooligans. I'm sure we were called that many times. And so I have 4 older sisters, but I grew up on boats and motorcycles and loved all that kind of stuff. Loved fishing and killing things and destroying things. And I was kicked out of school many times. It started in 3rd grade. Then in 6th grade, I was put in some sort of behavioral class, and my mom moved me to a private Christian school. And then they asked for me not to come back there. And then she put me in another one. And that's where the pastor / principal really took an interest in me. I became saved, found Jesus, but it's still not been smooth sailing since then. Ups and downs and trials and tribulations, mountaintops and valleys and that. When I graduated from high school, barely, I went to college for a week, and then I quit and joined the Marine Corps. My grandpa and my dad and I all have been in the Marine Corps. So I went off to boot camp.
Hey, Brax, can I ask you a quick question before you get too deep? What was it about the pastor that changed? Because you were obviously having some form of behavioral issues going through school, right?
Yep.
What was it that he saw in you? Because I know you mentioned you talk about him in the book. So what was it that you saw that he saw in you that helped you really kind of settle down and figure things out a little bit better?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. And we didn't plan that ahead of time, but I love this part of it is because he was he was definitely about rules. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Bob Jones University, but it's a very strict Christian school, and he went through that school in the 60s. So you can only imagine
Yep.
how strict he was. And he used to spank me about every single day. He had a big wooden paddle and would spank me. They probably don't do that anymore, do they, in school?
No, now they
Like,
get sued.
but
They get sued. They lose their job.
yeah.
You know.
Well, he did, but he also had a relationship with me, and he cared about me, and I knew over time that he loved me.
I'm doing
I
this
don't know
because I
what he
love you.
saw in me. Exactly. Tell me how much he cared about me right before he spanked me. And, there's that saying, I don't know where I learned it, but rules without a relationship leads to rebellion.
Yeah.
And
100%.
he had those rules, believe me, but he also developed a relationship with me and loved me.
That's awesome.
That is great. Well, let's fast forward again. So was it after, it sounds like it was a family thing, obviously, but was it after high school that you decided to join the Marines, or was that a thought in your head when you were younger?
I don't know if it was a thought in my head. I'm a very impulsive kind of guy, and it has certainly got me into trouble at times, but it's also what's helped me get to where I am, if I am anywhere right now. But like I went to college. I joined up. I'm like, I'm going to college, and I joined up, and I left the very first week, and I'm like, this is not for me. I'm not ready to jump back into this again. And I remember riding my motorcycle. I shouldn't tell you what kind of bike it was, because it's sort of sad what it was,
No.
but
It's okay. What was it? You rode. What was it? A scooter?
it was a Honda Rebel. No, it's
Oh,
probably,
Rebel.
Nothing wrong with a
I
Rebel.
don't know if that's,
Yeah, but back in the day, the Honda Rebel was a cool bike. It's not like anybody can afford it.
It was the closest thing I could get to a Harley-Davidson.
Of course.
And afford it in the
Right.
day.
That's right.
So I rode that to a recruiter's office, signed up. I remember coming back on the island. I still remember this now. Turned left and coming around partway. I have no idea why my mom was at this neighbor's house that was like half a mile from our house. But I saw her there. I came rolling up the gravel.
Semper
And I
Fi,
said,
Mom.
Mom, I just joined the Marine Corps. She immediately started crying.
Oh, wow.
gosh.
She was not tears of joy. She was not happy.
Right,
I was
right,
going
right.
in the
That's
Marine
not a
Corps.
pleasant
So,
surprise for mama. That's brutal.
Yep. Yep.
Man, Braxton, take us into the, I guess, difficulties, the character development. Take us into the things that you learned and the things that tested you and your willpower to stick it out as a dog.
Well, my sisters tested me a lot. And one in particular, she tested me quite a bit. Just my own struggles in life, just growing up with my mom and dad, and things that went on in our home. It was fairly chaotic. I guess I shouldn't say my parents should have got divorced, because it worked out great later, but it was a lot of struggles in our family and a lot of chaos growing up. But that's part of why I think that I'm able to jump in situations that are chaotic now. And
Yeah.
I'm able to be extremely flexible. They talk about being comfortable with change, and I've always been comfortable with change. I enjoy change. I embrace change. I'm happy to have things change up all the time. And
So-
so I went through my stint in the Marine Corps, and honestly, like I wrote in my book, I knew that first second when I landed at the airport and the drill instructors at the airport screaming at me in front of everybody and other people, I was like, this was a bad decision. This was not the right decision. I'm glad I did it. I honorably served, but I knew I need to get out of here. This is not going to be a life situation here.
Would that be rules
And-
without relationship?
That's right. That's right. That's right. It was just rules, and it was their way or the highway. And I remember crying myself to sleep that very first night. I don't mind saying.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, of course, of
and
course. Yeah,
then,
yeah. You're no
then
longer this little wise kid living by his own rules anymore.
that's
Now you
right.
got somebody that's gonna kick your ass every
And,
single day. So
and I did have one of them put me down one day. So then I knew I needed to get my education. I went to so many different schools. My transcript is probably from seven different colleges: Blackhawk College, Pikes Peak Community College, Regis University. I finally ended up finishing at Western Illinois University. And when I was a small arms repairman in the Marine Corps, and then when I went into the Army, and I don't tell other Marines that part of the story, but I went into the Army and worked in behavioral sciences, and my background's in psychology and business, and working through a lot of my own issues
yeah.
during
What
that.
what was your first gig as far as the work after you left the Marines and you finished up your education part? Where did you go into in that part of your career?
I've had so many jobs. I've never stayed until this job right here. I've never stayed anywhere for more than 5 years. And now I've been here for 5 years, 2 months, and a few days because I'm
Oh,
loving it here. But I said all that to try to remember where it was. I think I just remembered I went into
You were
an
doing
out.
finance, right? Or
No,
no?
no, that was only one 5 year stint later on. But I worked at an outpatient department of psychiatry. I was, I did crisis intervention. I was on call for the hospital, and they would get people that came into the emergency room in the middle of the night, whether they had a chronic mental illness like schizophrenia or just depression or a suicide attempt. And I'd be the one that, when the doctor's like, yeah, I can't do anything medically for this person, they would call me. I would be one of the people on rotation, but I actually did it a lot. I enjoyed being on call, and I would go in there and sit with that person, talk with them, and we just determine some type of outcome to keep them safe, at least just for that night.
wow.
I forgot about all that.
Talking about crisis intervention, did your military background help shape your relationship with pressure and discipline and responsibility as you started your work journey?
More my family background shaped me for
Family,
that.
huh?
But yes, of course, the military certainly taught me a lot of things about discipline and staying cool under pressure. And that even though at that time I was never in any type of conflict or war at any point while I was in the service.
All right.
Gotcha.
You go through these different work stints career wise after you get out of the military. You're doing a bunch of different jobs. Then the opportunity comes about. Take us into how this opportunity to Iraq came about. I know you discuss it in your book, so you can take it however you want, explain as much as you want. But what interested you about it, and what in the world made you leave that life behind and say, yes, a civilian mission in Iraq sounds like an excellent thing to do during the middle of a war?
Well, and that is me. I'm just sort of a jump in kind of guy and ask questions later. And that is right before that, I was a financial planner, so to speak, and worked with all just different securities and different things like that, and worked with families and businesses on their financial planning. But when I was back in the military, like I said, I'd never been involved in something that I thought was bigger than myself, a mission for my country. I'm a patriot. I know you guys are. I love my country, and I always wanted to serve it in that way. And my brother-in-law, of all people, and he is a brilliant man, had written books, has an MBA and in manufacturing and engineering, and that he comes home for Christmas, I think it was, or Thanksgiving, and he said, yeah, I'm getting ready to go to Baghdad, or he had already been there. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was good friends with the Undersecretary of Defense, Paul Brinkley, and he brought him in to help revive the economy in the midst
Mm.
of the Middle East. So so that was right before General Petraeus started the surge, where we brought in additional troops to help clear out the enemy. But behind that, it was us helping to build the economy and get people back to work. In fact, Paul Brinkley's book is called War Front to Storefront. And I actually have a couple pictures and things like that in that book of me up in Kurdistan with the sheep and things like that. But he said what he was doing, and I just immediately said, if there's ever anything you think I can do to help with that, please call me. And it was like 6 months later, he called and he said, hey, I think I have the perfect thing for you. And I honestly was just like, giddy up, let's go. And
at that time, you had two young daughters.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. I had two young, beautiful daughters, Allison and Faith. And I was impulsive and just said yes. I just saw it as an opportunity to serve my country. And initially I saw it as an opportunity to help the American warfighter, because just like in any city, when you have high unemployment, you have a higher incident of crime taking place.
Absolutely.
And the same thing over there, these terrorists would entice people by paying them to set IEDs and things like that. And the terrorist element, the only thing that could be done with them was having the Marines exterminate them, because there was no bringing them around.
Absolutely.
But coming in behind that and helping those families, that turned out to be one of the most rewarding things for me.
Yeah.
Because growing up in the Middle East, or not the Middle East, the Midwest, I had no idea about Middle Eastern people. Only thing I knew was what I saw on the news and in movies, and it wasn't that great, but they are wonderful people just like us. And I really developed a love for the Middle Eastern people.
Yeah, you mentioned that for sure.
Most of them are wonderful people, just like most of us are wonderful people.
Absolutely,
right.
Ben. That's right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you remember the exact moment it became real for you? Your family's back in the States. You've been out of the military game for a little while, and you come across that moment where it's like, I'm in freaking Iraq. There are bombs and killing and war. Takes into that journey and how you were able to adjust, or if you adjusted.
I did adjust, and I adjusted. I think I adjusted pretty quickly. There were other people that would come over. I like to say there were these Ivy Leaguers and that who came over, who they were gone pretty quickly. Some of them, obviously not every Ivy Leaguer, but I just like to throw out that term. So, it really, I always think about just that first day of landing at the Baghdad International Airport on the military side and walking out of that plane. It was Griffin Airlines is what we flew in, this contracted group that would fly us in. And it was like no landing you'd ever experience in your life or want to experience. I think it was called a corkscrew landing. So they would just come in, and they come in fast and hard and then just pull up at the last minute, and you're just hanging on for dear life and that. But it was just getting off that plane with all your gear, and me realizing I brought way too much stuff over here. And just that I landed on, I think it was around July 7th. So it was probably 115 degrees, and just that heat just hitting you right in the face, man, as you walked out.
Yeah.
And all you see are the T-walls, concrete, planes landing everywhere, military people running around. You're like, yeah, you really got yourself into it this time, Braxton.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's crazy. So without giving away too much from the book, can you paint us a picture what your role actually looked like on a day-to-day over there? Because, I know what it is because I read the book, but for the people who may not and want to, take us into that part, because it was completely different in the middle of a war, what your object was to do. So it was absolutely it was crazy interesting, but I'm like, damn, while this is all I'm reading it, I'm going like, all this is going on, and you're walking through this stuff to do this. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It was, like I said, our role was to try to, the engineers were there. Let me back up. The engineers were there to try to see what could still be manufactured in their facilities. And there was a lot that they could do over there. And they could build tractors. They could make clothes. They could make these handmade, I mean, just everything. And so what we found out was there was a lot of demand just from the military being there. And if we could have something manufactured by these people and not have it brought in and then convoyed in, and then people that are risking their lives to bring in just a simple tent peg to be brought in and have it manufactured right there, then we could help to save people's lives and get people back to work. So to give you an idea of just sort of a day-to-day, this is one specific mission that was near and dear to my heart. These are women there that made these handmade rugs, and just beautiful handmade rugs that I even have one of them hanging down in my living room called the Pazarik. And what was wrong was they had this cheap Chinese wool being shipped in and dyed with these terrible dyes and making these, I have a couple of these crappy rugs they used to make here also that were for tourists and that. Well, we brought in these experts from the UK and said, these women have incredible skills. I even sat at their loom, acting as though I was tying a knot, just for a picture. But we had sheep everywhere. So where the heck is all the wool? So I actually was one of the first few people to get a flight on Iraqi Airways, which I called Inshallah Airways, which means God willing. And it was, God willed me to stay alive during that mission, because I went up there on my own. Even my boss, I called him Downtown Jerry Brown. Now, he was an Ivy Leaguer. I think he went to Yale, but I may have that wrong. But he said, you can do this, but it's all on you. If something goes sideways, nobody's going to be there to help you.
Right.
And I said, I think this is going to help get it done. So I flew up to Kurdistan, which anybody who's been to Kurdistan, it's safer than probably downtown Nashville, as it turned out. And it's the northern part of Iraq. It's where the Kurds are. They loved Americans. Saddam slaughtered the Kurds, and they welcomed us being up there. And so I found a translator. Not many people spoke English, so I found the first guy. We're just pantomiming, trying to get some communication going. He gets me to the next guy. Finally, I get to Yuri Yusuf, who knows English better than I do. He becomes my tour guide throughout the mountains of Kurdistan to the border of Iran and the border of Syria and that. And we find the sheep, we find the wool, and we get that wool and we get it down to our ladies, and we bring in the good dyes and the good designs, and they start manufacturing world-class rugs again. And then they start selling that in the United Kingdom, and it gets those people employed, gives them, a mission in their life to provide for their family again.
That's so
Absolutely.
cool.
There, did that tell it?
Yeah, it did. So are you a professional sheep shaver now?
I am. I do have a great picture of me shaving sheep.
Yeah, I saw that in the book. You got it there, right?
Yeah.
That's
And
fine.
then one of the guys up on the mountain milking, I don't know if I think it was a goat, is what I remember, but it was like 100 degrees out, and that was body temperature. That was the worst thing. And I think I described it as somewhere between mucus and regret.
So, gosh. Jeez, man.
yeah.
Braxton, what did that experience teach you about business, dignity, and opportunity, and how they're all connected?
Business, dignity, and opportunity,
Yes,
and
sir.
how they're all connected. That's a great question. It just taught me again, just about caring for people. And if you show them that you care, and you do, and I try to be very genuine. Sometimes it gets me into trouble. I'm just real.
So be it.
And I just really cared. Once I got over there, I cared about them. I wanted to help them. And I think that I bring that to Harley-Davidson Financial as well. I love getting in the dealership because I was at General Motors. I've said that a couple times. The car industry,
It's different.
Jesus loved them. It's
Yeah, it's
different. And I don't ever want to go back. I've been offered to go back, make more money and work a little bit less, but I've fallen in love with Harley-Davidson, Harley-Davidson Motor Company, Harley-Davidson Financial Services, and the Harley-Davidson dealers and the riders. And it's just amazing. So I don't think that answered your question, but that's I'm sticking to it.
It sounded good.
I hope so.
Coming into the things that you were hired to do, how helpful truly was the government in seeing this mission truly accomplished?
They're terrible at helping with anything.
No, not our
So
That
government.
doesn't sound
More-
right.
No way.
I don't care who is in office. It didn't matter. I think George Bush was in when I first got over there, and then Barack Obama. I think I may have that mixed up, but it didn't matter who it was, and especially, I should not say this, but it's in my book. The State Department was the worst of all, as far as I'm concerned. And I always made it clear I worked for the Department of Defense, and they, for the most part, are people of action. I worked with some incredible leaders over there. I wish I could remember some of their names. There was one general in particular that I worked with, and he was a West Pointer, and man, did he get it. And he got our mission as well. And they were incredible. But no, the government screws. I don't even know what they do get right, but
No, they did nothing. They just chew people out, use them, and spit them out when they don't
No.
need them.
yeah,
Welcome.
we accomplished a lot though, in spite of the government.
Which is awesome.
Our team saved lives. I'll always be convinced of that. And there was a lot of money spent on our mission, but for one mom and one dad that had one son or daughter come home because of something that we may have done,
That's huge.
I mean, you can't put
Absolutely.
a price tag on that.
Why did you choose Highway of Death as a title?
Well, the full title is Highway of Death, One Man's Memoir of Revitalizing the Middle East, One Sheep at a Time.
That's right.
So, but Highway of Death is what that road was called. There's two different ones. If someone wants to be, picky about it, there was one in Kuwait, but this one was also called between Baghdad International Airport and the international zone where our embassy was at. That stretch of road, I think, was about 8 miles, was the most dangerous road in the Middle East at a period of time. And I think it was, I'm not sure who nicknamed it that. It was the Middle Eastern people, or if it was the soldiers in that. But that was a road we traveled a lot. And there was just an incredible moment, scary, stupid moment that a buddy of mine did on that road. But that's why I chose it.
All right. So the book has been described as intense, accurately so, but also human and even unexpectedly funny at times. How important was perspective and mindset in getting through that chapter of your life?
It definitely was a mindset. You just had to get up every single day and just focus on just that day and getting through that day and doing what was needed, just like in everyday life, really. It's nothing elaborate. Nothing I do is elaborate. It's very simple and focused. And people start asking me, what do you know even today about, what do you know about this going on or that going on at the motor company or in the previous administration or this administration and that. And I'm just like, I have no clue, what's going on. I just stay focused in my lane for the most part. I have no original ideas either. I just try to take things that I learned from other people, maybe mold them into my way. And I almost always, even over there, tried to have fun. And I found ways to have fun. And I love putting smiles on people's faces and making people laugh. I've always been sort of the class clown, and that's sort of what I love to do. In fact, I've been working on a open mic night in Nashville, and I'm
Nice.
doing a stand-up one night. I've got
Good for you.
I've got some jokes already. So
Good for
That's
you.
awesome. So after a chapter like that, how do you come back and function again in everyday life? What does that transition really look like? Because it does look so different for so many soldiers and citizens that are doing work over there. What's your story?
yeah, and the soldiers and the all of the service members in that, their life was way more difficult than mine was over there. Their living conditions, the time that they stayed over there for periods of time. I came back every few months or so.
Nice.
And I don't remember what my longest stint over there, 4 months or so, but it's very different, but you don't really realize how much pressure is on you until maybe
No,
that
it's not.
first time it blows.
I got it.
And you realize, man, that was really out of character. And you realize that there is a lot of pressure. So I threw myself into working out after an incident happened when I came back. So there, that's
To
kind
help
of
you. Yeah, that's smart. It's good.
Yeah.
Work out your brain functions better. All right, well let's pivot now. Take us into how the Harley-Davidson opportunity, which is the next chapter, come about in your life. Take us into who introduced you to this. Was this an open job that you just applied for? How did you get into a great company like that?
So it had to be the Lord opening the door for me. I was at General Motors corporate. I had been promoted several times. I was an area manager, covered 10 states, had a small team that was working for me. And I was actually it was going to be lateral, but was going to move over to GM financial side. And so but it was an external posting, just all this corporate crap. And so I had to go on the internet to find the posting to apply, but the job was mine. And as I did that, I did a Google search for it. And all of a sudden, this Harley-Davidson financial services job came up, and I read it, and I was like, that sounds super cool. And I think I should apply for that. And in the meantime, I had also sent in my application for General Motors Financial. They had approved it. I was signed on, and I was going over there, and Harley-Davidson Financial's job, their interview process, it took a long time. They had a lot of people interview me, and I'm sure they were definitely not sure about bringing me on. I'm sure a lot of people were saying, no, we don't want this kind of guy here. But,
why do you
I
say that?
eventually made it through.
Why do you say that, Braxton?
Huh?
Why do you
It's
say
just
that?
a joke. It's just
Okay.
a joke.
All right, cool. Second. Hard to read on that.
I really
Modest. He's a talented dude, man.
I truly, as I look back, I fit perfect for it. I had the corporate background. I also had a dealership background, and I had just still that little glint in my eye that they were looking for. And so then in the meantime, I was still employed by General Motors. I was hired on by GM Financial. And then finally, Harley-Davidson Financial said yes. And they hired me on. I remember I was driving we lived in Arizona, which I love Arizona. And I was driving with my dog it was around Christmas time, and I was driving to pick up my wife in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, of all places. And I get the call from Harley-Davidson Financial, and they said, "You've got the job." And I stopped at Big Barn Harley-Davidson in Des Moines, Iowa, and picked out a sweatshirt. I still have that sweatshirt, and I had a coat on over it. My wife will tell you the story too. And I go to pick her up, and I've got the coat on over it. And I open up the coat, and it says Harley-Davidson. And we
That's
were both
funny.
just super excited. And it's
Very
been
cool.
incredible ever since.
That is really cool, man. So for people who are listening who may not fully understand your role, what exactly do you do today within the Harley ecosystem, and how does it impact dealers and customers?
I do need to have a qualifier here that I'm not here representing the motor company or HDFS in any way. This is just me. I have to add that in there, okay? You know, because I don't want to be held responsible for anything I say. So my job is to represent Harley-Davidson Financial to our dealers and to help facilitate that. And as they're trying to work with our riders and secure financing, we want to be there for all of that, for their motorcycle, to help with financing and protection of their motorcycle. And we talked about sales training. Also, I'm not the official sales trainer for Harley-Davidson Financial. I need to add that too. But when I came over, it was during COVID, and people were buying everything. They were buying motors. They didn't care what it cost. It was crazy.
Yeah.
RVs, boats, motorcycles, cars, trucks, and the sales process, whatever one we had, just went away completely. It was like order takers during that time.
Man.
And I was just like, this is going to end soon, and we're not going to have salespeople out there that know any process. And sure enough, it happened. And I'm about our salespeople just showing people the best possible experience they can, one salesperson at a time, because my primary role is in the finance office and with the owner of the dealerships. But I said, we can't even get people to the finance office if we're not able to greet them at the door appropriately.
Right.
That's right.
I tell people that Buc-ee's and Chick-fil-A are the only two places that greet me appropriately all the time, every time. So I'm all about that meet and greet
100%.
and giving people an incredible experience, because we have such an incredible dealer network, and I love working with them, and I want people to see how great we can be.
Yeah.
Make Harley-Davidson great again.
That's right.
It is great. It is great without me, but
I'd argue that in today's climate with product-driven businesses, as technology is improving, as competition is getting sharper and fiercer, it's now more than ever so much more important that the customer experience is superb. And that's what sets you apart in today's climate, in my humble opinion, because the products, like, they aren't really too far off, especially in the auto world. You know, so many cars, Serge and I have had this conversation 100 times, but so many cars just look the same. SUVs just look the same. So what's going to encourage you to get one over the other, you know?
What you're saying is absolutely correct, is because in addition to what you said is the fact that the younger generation now more shops online than they do. They always have this stigma of coming into a dealership that they're going to get attacked, thinking it's a car dealership. And yes, Harley under previous CEO turned itself more into a, let's say, car dealership mentality type. And that's what's happened to scare people away. So you're absolutely right, Ben. I mean, the reality is that the dealerships that treat people like family when they come in, keep that experience happy, and then the people keep shopping and buying from there, compared to walking in and then being lost and looking for somebody to help you, and then having somebody who has no idea what they're selling coming up to you and telling you, "Hey, I know you're 5'3", but you would look great on this ultra classic." You know, and it's just like, are you serious, dude? I can't even hold this thing up. Never mind. So it's just that kind of goes well into the next question I want to ask you. you're working inside the dealerships, and from seeing and talking, we've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to have some great people from the Harley-Davidson world come onto our show and talk about this. And, everybody's trying to build that team of passion and bring it back to old school of what it used to be. What are you seeing out there from your perspective? Because unfortunately, there are dealerships that are closing, obviously, which is sad to see. And then there are dealerships that are doing pretty well or staying afloat during a very crazy time at this point in time. What are your eyes seeing as you walking into so many different dealerships? Maybe attitude of people, what's going on the inside?
Yeah. So one thing that I'm definitely seeing is a positive attitude for most of the places that I'm going. And that, I think that reflects almost solely from our new administration that's in.
100%.
And just this week, I had the opportunity to actually meet Artie Stars, our new CEO, and just seeing his executives with him and how comfortable they felt. It seemed like to me, this is my opinion, that they just felt comfortable being just themselves around him. And he just makes you, just like, I'm sorry, I keep backing up, but just like my colleagues and I were sitting out front at this restaurant, and he comes walking by and he's like, "Why are you guys out here?" And somebody had set up for him to be in a private room with them. And he was like, no, you guys come back here. We're going to have dinner together.
Nice.
And that's how I was able to be sitting next to Karen Davidson and sharing stories. Now, she may have been happier had I been left out there by the end of it. But he just, I think that people are a lot more positive. And when you have our dealers, because here's the other thing, he's just embracing our owners and wanting their opinions and wanting to get out and meet with them, just like this round table, getting their ideas and helping to shape and mold the future of Harley-Davidson. So they're getting positive about that, and that's reflecting in their teams. I think I'm seeing a lot more positivity out there, which, that's more than half the battle.
For sure. I had a chance to speak to him, as I mentioned to you. We had a video call together, and
Okay.
you know what I mean, based obviously on all the feedback we're getting from, store owners, multiple store owners, people inside the company. I mean, everybody is extremely optimistic, which is incredible, and it's good for the brand. I'm a Harley. I'm very passionate about that brand. I always have been. It's what I did with my own stores
Harley
and
diehard.
live it. Right. I'm a diehard. I don't own any other motorcycles but Harleys, and I got 11 motorcycles. So it's just one of those things. What I'm saying is that, what I felt from him just on a personal level, just kind of trying to read him. You have a man that's come in. Obviously, he took care of Pizza Hut, blew that up, right? Then he went to Top Golf, blew that up, right? But yes, those are niches, but there's something, then he walked into and took this job, or was hired to take this job. And my gut feeling is that when he walked in, and this is just strictly my opinion of talking to him.
Yeah.
As he walked into this industry and really started to get his feet on the ground and meeting all these different people who work in dealerships, the business owners, the people inside the stores, the GMs, the sales managers, he really understood that the passion in this motorcycle industry is like no other industry out there. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. You've been in multiple, right? You've had multiple gigs where you said you worked 5 years or so, and then you got to the point where man, this is meh, and I feel that you can see him, that he's in this community now where it's like, holy smokes, this is really, really special. And the reason this community is special because everybody shares this passion for these two wheels that this brand makes, right? And then all of a sudden, and the way you can have a conversation, and I think you can see how much he's really taken into it. You know, I
Yeah,
love seeing him with this Harley gear on and shit. I'm
yeah,
sure 5 years ago, 3 years ago, he wasn't wearing that. You know what I mean? So it's
absolutely
cool to
not.
see him
Yep,
absorb that
yep,
passion that we breathe, live and breathe every day.
absolutely, absolutely. And I love how he wants his name on there. And actually, it's my understanding is that Scott Bumpus, who's one of my owners of a dealership, was telling a story about his dad and talking about how my dad said that our people are blue collar people. Our people have their names. We're the kind of people that have our names on their shirts, you know, and Artie embraced that. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the story I heard. But I love that, and he wants you to call him Artie. That's what he
Right.
wants, and I love that. So,
Yep. Agreed.
and
Agreed.
you know, he sent out shirts to every one of us, several shirts with our names on it to wear as we're out there, so people know us and can call us by name. Although a lot of my dealers know me, so.
That's great. So from your side, especially with Harley Davidson Financial Services, what are you seeing from the consumer right now? Are buying behaviors changing? And what should they understand about financing, timing, and opportunities they might not see, on the surface?
I think that we are starting to see a little more traffic in that, and I think that from what I've seen, and I think that also, unlike a lot of other places, our riders are tied in to what's going on at Harley Davidson from the top,
Hmm.
and they know who the CEO is. Like at General Motors, they may not have known who Mary
Right,
Barra is
right,
at,
definitely.
at the top of General Motors, or
Right.
really cared that
An
much.
interesting
But
point. Yeah,
but but when they saw what they were seeing previously, they didn't like it, and maybe weren't coming in to buy, partly because of that. And
Yeah.
mhm,
and I think that they're positive about the future of Harley Davidson in that, and are starting to come back in more because they appreciate the leadership that they see at Harley Davidson now. And
Can
as
I ask
far as you
you?
said
Sorry.
something about the financing side of it, the one thing that I'd say about that is that, man, our underwriters care so much.
that's good to
And,
hear.
you know, during COVID and also now as things cost so much more right now and people are struggling, our underwriters love to hear not the stories about people struggling, but they understand. And we try to do everything we can to work with people and get them on a Harley Davidson motorcycle.
You've been walking into stores now for 5 years, traveling all across the country and coming in. Now you've been under two administrations. One is obviously brand new, and it's only 5 months into the 5 or 6 months into the gig. Um, Obviously, the changes, very positive mindset. As you're walking into these dealerships, what is your take of the difference between what when you used to walk into them under JC and how people were working to compare to now the enthusiasm that you're seeing that RD Stars is bringing to the brand?
I mean, it is just that same thing I was talking about, that it was just very negative. There was almost nobody that I would run into over time that was happy or positive about the direction that we were moving to. And that administration, for most of the part, they kept the dealers at arm's length. And that's not what Harley Davidson is about. It's about our dealers. We're about working with our dealers. And we couldn't do what we're doing without our dealers out there.
Right.
And this administration is just like right now. I mean, all week I don't even know how many of these town halls they did, but like they showed up at Dayton at 1 o'clock. I don't remember where they were before they got there, but they got up at 5 in the morning to fly to New Hampshire or somewhere. I think they're in California today. They're all over the country, meeting with dealers, meeting with their staffs, and getting ideas. And from everything I saw, they are welcoming any and all ideas, and they want to use those ideas to help shape the future. So just everybody being able to be heard means so much. Just like any, I mean, if we feel, or just like my wife, you know, if she feels like I'm hearing her and listening to her and care, makes all the difference in the world, right?
Mhm.
That's right.
I think part of that active listening aspect, it goes back to humility and leadership, and in my opinion, intelligence and leadership. That's those two things are married. I'm excited to see what Artie does with everything.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think
absolutely.
everybody is.
Yeah.
So when you stand in front of dealership teams now, Braxton, how much of your past and everything you've lived through show up in how you lead and teach?
It's, you know, I'm just very passionate about what I do. And I love working with their teams because for the most part, it seems like they want me there. General Motors and the car dealerships, a lot of times they were like, just go away. We don't want you here. And that would happen. And I even had teammates that were thrown out of dealerships. I don't think I was ever thrown out of dealerships, but maybe I blocked that out. But they want our feedback. They want anything, any idea that we have that will help them, help their customers, help their riders. They want it. And so I just bring that passion. And also, I've never been afraid to just do anything new, try something new, and have fun with it and laugh at myself.
That's awesome. Hey, let me ask you this. When someone picks up Highway of Death, what do you hope they experience or walk away with without giving away the story?
You know, at the end of the day, my last line in the book is about I'm still laughing.
That's right.
And it's, to me, it's always about having fun. Also, I hope that they will learn. I share the gospel message in there, and I hope they know that there is a creator of this world, of this universe, and I hope that they'll learn about that and learn to pray. But it's also on this earth, it's about those relationships, no matter who it's with. And I've developed such great relationships with my dealers and their staff. And it doesn't matter where I'm at in the dealership, I try to get to know anybody in the dealership. So it's about relationships, staying positive, and laughing along the way.
That's awesome. That's what I got from it too, man. I mean, just the circumstances you were put into, and whether they were sketchy at the moment or not sketchy at the moment, how you always walked away with a picture and a friend and a contact and a future contact for whatever you needed going forward. So it's cool to see that translate. I can just imagine, you know, you and I have had a chance to chat multiple times prior to this podcast and kind of slowly become contacts and friends.
Yeah.
And I can feel, man, like how awesome it must be for the teams that you sit in front of and talk about, you know, using all your experiences that maybe majority of us have never been a part of. We only see it on TV or see it on the news, but how you can bring that, put it into joy and positivity and bring it and give it back to everybody that you're talking to. And that's, I think, what makes you a special human being in our lives and for Harley-Davidson. So it's amazing. Keep up that work.
Well said, Serge.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And also, I may have gained a contact, you know, but they've also gained a contact of someone that they can call on for anything.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Braxton, the last question is where can people follow you, connect with you, grab a copy of the book, all of those things. But first, I want to ask you, what's your message to the world?
Well, my real message to the world right now is just like I said a minute ago. I mean, there is a creator, and I would encourage them to that Jesus is the savior of this world, and he loves them.
Amen.
That's the truth.
That's awesome. Thank you, Braxton. So where can people follow you? Where can they, are you active on any kind of social media stuff, or is there website? What's the best place to buy your book? Give us all the details and we'll link all this up in the show notes, please.
It's on Amazon. under Highway of Death. I don't have a special page. I am on lots of different social media platforms, although I've been trying to back away from a lot of that stuff right now, but it's just Braxton Hamilton on Facebook is probably the place. There are a few of us, I found out, but
You're pretty good
not,
with LinkedIn too.
oh, that's right. Oh
You're pretty,
yeah, absolutely. I'm on,
you're
yeah,
good on
that's right.
LinkedIn.
And I'll stay with LinkedIn and
I
that.
like
So
LinkedIn, my favorite
yeah,
too, man.
yeah. I see you on there as well. So, but yeah, and you can find it on, just Amazon under Highway of Death. I think there is another Highway of Death, but mine has a sheep on it.
We
So
got you. One man's
yeah,
memoir. We'll make sure we link it
Yeah.
correct.
that's right.
And it's such a great book, guys. I mean, I'm just telling you, I'm not pitching this thing on no means. I try to read, most of my read that I do is always kind of some kind of a business thing or something like that. And Braxton was kind enough to send me a book. He signed it, which is killer. So it's going to be in my collection forever. But, Ben and I flew to, where the hell did we go, Ben?
Awesome.
Oh, to the MotoGP in Austin, Texas. And
Yeah.
I got the book like a week before. And I was like, all right, on the plane, I'm going to start reading this. And I started reading it and I couldn't put it down. It's a super easy read, but it's entertaining. Like everything is entertaining and true. And it takes you into this like world that you can't even imagine, but it's through his eyes. So it was cool. And my favorite parts have always been, number one, the relationship building things that you've done and all the people that you've met across your path. And one of the most heartwarming stuff was when you actually ended the mission and got to the airport and you saw both of your girls running up to you. And that was pretty cool. The ending was pretty beautiful. So it's
Thank
been an
you.
honor to get you on our
Thanks a
show,
lot.
man. And keep doing what you're doing because you're doing it right.
Serge kept
Thanks a lot.
elbowing me and pointing at the book and putting it in my face. And so I haven't gotten to read it yet. So it's on my next list. I'm excited to check it out.
I'm
Man.
gonna give you the you just give it back though, but I'm gonna let you read it.
Make sure
Yeah, you gotta give it back. It's signed. It's special, man.
No,
Awesome. Braxton,
thank you
Thanks,
so
Brax.
much. Thank you so much.
It's been
Thank
an
you.
honor. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care.